Getting to know you, getting to know all about Seahawks Twitter. I don't know if that was Neil Diamond. I don't know who that was supposed to sound like. What I do know is last week, after talking to Jackson Bevins, that I needed to get the bad boy of Seahawks Twitter on for episode 2 of Getting to Know Hawks Twitter. That would be one Evan Hill.
I was just kind of curious what Paul gets to see.
You are definitely living in the hindsight world today, Paul.
You got f***ing grow up, mother. Are you kidding me?
Oh, Gallant, what the hell is wrong with you?
Evan Hill is the host of Real Hawk Talk. It's every Wednesday at 8 o'clock. You guys do a post-game show as well. I think I saw the one, the only Stacey Ross joining you guys for it. You write as well. You have a Patreon, which makes me feel old.
I actually do not have a Patreon. It's for the
site
you're thinking of. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So,
well, get on that, everybody.
Personally, yeah,
okay.
Let me put it this way. It's like 99% of it goes to Ben's fund.
Okay.
Or another charity.
Oh.
So
now you're making me look bad.
I don't want people thinking like I'm making money. Is the only reason.
Instead, I'm just no big deal. I'm just giving back to all the people who are needy. God, making me feel awful. I think it's super appropriate that your Twitter handle is @Evan in Seattle, @Evidence SEA, because you're basically a modern version of a sports talk show caller. Also, the modern version of a sports talk show host, because your Twitter, in one word, I would describe it as aggressive.
Yeah, that's fair. No, totally. Like I'm a lunatic, man. Like I'm a pretty fairly calm person in life, I feel like, but when it comes to football and sports, dude, there's like a demon that comes outside of my body. Like I'm a competitive person when it comes to sports, man. Like I grew up playing tons of sports in high school. Even a little bit of college. Like I'm just a competitive person, and I'm really passionate about the Seahawks. And I'm sure you might be one of these people, and I'm sure you know many of these people. Being a sports radio host is the deadly mix of fiercely competitive nature and passion. Is not always pretty. So
I think it is, and I'm going to call you the bad boy of Seahawks Twitter. You can trademark that. You're welcome. Evan Hill, the bad boy of Seahawks Twitter.
Oh my God.
When did you start sharing the opinions online? Yeah,
that's a good question. Like 2015.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember how this all kind of started. So I had like a couple of I guess you could say burner Twitter accounts where I was probably like a little too aggressive and said things that I probably shouldn't have said. You know what I mean?
It happens.
So I deleted those and, okay, so I'm going to make you feel old for a second. Can I do that?
Go ahead.
Okay. So I graduated college in 2016. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I told you.
Wow. I thought we were the same age, man. You just brought me down.
You take away this beard, and I look 12 years old, okay? So it gives me more maturity and a little bit of respect, even though I don't deserve it. Where was I going with this? Oh, yeah. So, early, like in my last year of college, I was studying the salary cap, like really intensely. I'm a numbers guy when it comes to – so – this is the background. I actually graduated from UW, so obviously local to Seattle. Studied law and econ and public policy. Initially wanted to work in politics. Quickly realized that was a horrible decision. But always been obsessed with the numbers, the number side of things, contractual law, all that type of stuff. So I interned for Over the Cap. I'm not sure if you're aware of them. Basically, they're like
You made me aware of them fairly recently because I was the guy who was constantly going to Spotrac.
I'm sorry.
Oh, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. Because one of my friends who covers the Houston Texans for Over the Cap was like, "What have you been doing this whole time?" And I was like, "I don't know. I just went to Spotrac. I'm sorry."
Well, yeah. I mean, I hope I didn't come across as passive aggressive or anything like that. It's just
you're fine.
Spotrac literally has scripts that just steal the data from Over the Cap, and it's just can't you do the work manually?
So you guys do the work for Spotrac. Interesting. Or excuse me, Over the Cap does the work. Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't work with them anymore, but I use them heavily, obviously. But Over the Cap is the one that pretty much sources all. And let me be clear, they're not the original sources of all those data. They're just pulling media reports, crediting the media reports, of course, in their little bio lines, and just sticking the numbers in a nice little thing that makes sense for people can read. So where was I going with this? Oh yeah, interned that with them for a year or probably like 6 months or so, just trying to get as neck deep as possible and really educating myself. It wasn't really to like start tweeting or anything like that. Started tweeting in 2015. Danny Kelly, the Ringer writer now, used to be the head editor, I guess is what maybe the title is for Field Goals. This was in like 2015, 2016. I had written something about the cap. I don't remember what it was. I think it was a Russell Wilson contract extension in his first one. I think it was, ending his rookie contract. And Danny was like, "Hey, you can write decently well. You don't sound like a total idiot. Would you like to write for Field Goals?" So, me as a young 21-year-old, I was like, holy cow, this is awesome. A platform. Yeah, I'll take the opportunity. So started writing for them, just volunteering my time because it was fun for myself. And there was some changing of the guard a couple of years later. Kenneth Arthur took over the site and a lot of us just left. And so I went to Hawk Blogger and I've been there ever since. I initially did a lot of writing for them, a lot of over the cap stuff, like contract breakdown, salary cap stuff. I still kind of do that in the off season, but as somebody who's not paid to do this professionally like you are, I get lazier over time. So
I think you do a great job. I honestly, I think everyone that's been able to put this passion into work online, it's fantastic. And I think it's one of the reasons that this fan base is just so fun. It's not quite the same in Houston where I was for the last 8 years. And seriously, yeah. I think what you guys have created, this Seahawks Twitter atmosphere, it's just very fun. I'm trying to get to know it. I'm trying to get a little bit more familiar with it. What I'm learning, it sounds like Danny Kelly is the godfather, the guy that's pulling all the strings behind it.
Danny Kelly is not talked about enough, man. I'm telling you, like that guy, beyond being a phenomenal writer, has literally, I don't know how to phrase this appropriately. Identified like, and I'm not even talking about myself because I'm an idiot, but like he has developed some serious writers who have gone on to do crazy things. I know he's really tight with Mita Kimes. Zach Whitman gets noted nationally all the time. There's a Jackson Bevins is obviously who was on here last week is huge in the Seahawks world. Danny Kelly has a brilliant mind for, I think, talent identification and scouting. I think he'd be like a great head editor one day for some big sports media group or something like that. So yeah, Danny Kelly, great guy. Not as close as I am or I used to be with him, but I mean, can't
he's big time now.
Enough of him.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of people pulling at his coattails. So
let's sift through some of your recent takes. I was really surprised to see you tweet, "Extend Ken Norton." Man, that was a weird one.
Okay, Paul. So this is the thing. I'm going to hear about that later, Paul. I'm going to hear about that later. I just want you to know that. I'm going to get 5 or 6 emails. Brian's going to tell me, "Evan, what the hell did you say?"
I'm kidding, everybody. Evan is definitely not on that train. Let's talk about this for a second. I am not someone that feels that you go all the way like that in the middle of the season. I say it because while I don't know that Ken Norton Jr. is really doing anything for you, does removing him make things better? Because for me, I look at it as you're putting another load of work on Pete Carroll's plate, and it seems like now all the defensive play calling goes to him. This year, he seems to have been better in terms of game management, and I don't know that I want him to have more things on his plate on that side of things. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I know the takes I've been spewing out there have been fire Ken Norton, but you don't even really need to fire Ken Norton, I think. I think you just need to bring in an outside defensive consultant, maybe like a Chris Richards or a Dan Quinn, somebody from, the Legion of Boom days. Or Pete Carroll just needs to get more involved. I think Pete Carroll is a brilliant defensive mind. We've criticized him a ton over the years, rightfully so, I think. But one thing I won't criticize him on is I think he's a brilliant defensive mind, and I think he should be more involved. So it's not even necessarily like you have to fire Ken Norton. There's other options on the table. Will I think they do it? No. Now, Paul, this is the one thing I'll say that really solidifies it in my mind for why I think it's a coaching issue. The pass rush is bad and deservedly bad. Like going into the season, everybody was like, this pass rush unit is going to be bad. Now, ironically, they had a good day Sunday, but let's wipe that from our brains for a second.
They were practically doing engage 8 all game long too, like in Madden.
Fair, over blitzing heavy. Everybody expected them to be bad, but you know what group we did not expect to be bad? The secondary.
I saw your tweet that you posted up and you tagged Freezing Cold Takes in it with that picture of the best secondary in the NFL. And you're not alone on this front, so don't beat yourself up on it. Shaquille Griffin, Quinton Dunbar, Jamal Adams, and my guy, Quandre Diggs. And that was something that even I started to get pulled into, this idea that they were going to have an elite secondary, and it just hasn't been the case.
This is the thing, Paul. Like, those are good players. Like, those are talented players. I'm not willing to concede that this is like washed up old name talent. No. Like Quinton Dunbar is maybe Quandre Diggs is the oldest one, but he's like 29 or something. Like Quandre Diggs was amazing last year. Like all 4 of those guys are playing below their talent level. I think Jamal Adams is probably the least below his talent level, but the corners are a real problem. We were just talking about this on Real Hawk Talk last night. Like Quandre Diggs has been fine. Jamal Adams, we can talk all about his utilization and how I think, my opinion would be they're rushing the passer far too predictably with him. If you look at their on-off splits with him off the field, it's like they're rushing the passer or blitzing the passer like twice as much with him on the field. It's like 30% of the time. It's pretty crazy. But the cornerbacks are a real problem. Dunbar is a trade that we made in the offseason that everybody was excited about. He's been a pretty damn good player for Washington the past 2 years. I know it sounds like he's dealing with potentially some chronic knee issue. So there's a little bit of an asterisk there. But regardless, I think he's like playing pretty significantly below his talent level.
I'm with you.
Shaquille Griffin has been out for a few weeks, so I understand that with the concussion and the hamstring. But like before he was out, like he was not playing like the player we need him to be. I'm just going to remind you of something. He's in a contract year. So if he balls out this year, we're talking like a $17 to $19 million contract extension per year. Like, I'm not saying he deserves that. I'm saying he's going to ask for it. And I think there's a very good chance he does get paid that on the open market if he had balled out this year. But that's just not been the case. And I think it's a myriad of issues. You can't point at one thing and be like, this is the problem. There's a lot of factors going into this. But I do think if you at least bring in an outside defensive consultant, or maybe have Pete get a little bit more involved in the, down to down, blitz and play calling, I do think it improves. I
like the idea of bringing in a different defensive consultant, and it's something I had thrown on the table this offseason because I just felt, hey, you look at the coaching staff, there really haven't been many changes made over the last couple of years. And you brought up the, old defensive coordinators of the Seahawks. I wonder if bringing in guys who have been here before is the way to go, though, because I think that there's always going to be a natural deference to the guy who's been here the longest. I want like entirely new ideas that maybe Pete doesn't even entirely agree with, but just make his brain think in different ways, because he is a tremendously curious person. So I'm hoping that maybe something like that were to happen. I don't think it's going to happen during the season, though, and I know for a lot of people that's frustrating. To your comments about the defensive backs, it's Griffin. I've always felt Griffin is really good at not screwing up, and occasionally he and that's not like a insult. It's not meant to be one. He's not one of those guys, though, that's going to make plays on the football to the same degree that Dunbar can. And we saw against New England, Dunbar, wow, that was awesome. And I think that's where the injury started for Dunbar, and that's what's tricky. And now I'm trying to figure out, because we heard from Pete 2 different things on Monday. When he was on with us, he said there's the chronic knee issue that's going on, but then later that afternoon he made it seem like Quinton Dunbar is not 100% understanding the system, and that could fall back on coaching. That could fall back on Quinton Dunbar.
We talked about that comment on Real Hawk Talk last night, actually. Somehow, I think that quote was pulled out from Pete on Monday. Is that right? I think it was Monday. It came out in a press conference. That quote is shocking to me. Like, absolutely shocking. And I'll tell you why. If he's was this issue with like their whole step kick, like corner technique not identified by John Schneider, like before they made the trade? Like, to me, that's a front office issue. Like, are you telling me they just went out and traded for a cornerback that I know they didn't give up much compensation, so whatever. But did they not ask about that? Scout the player well enough to determine if he'd be a good fit for their system, before making the trade? I think there's some questions there. Don't you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I think, though, to your point, you are trading a 5th-round pick for the guy who, was number 2 PFF? And again, It's Pro Football Focus. You don't want to put too much stock into it. But still, that's impressive. Richard Sherman was number 1. Sherman did play well for the most part last year until the very end. So that is something that I wonder about. I would think that given and I wasn't here for it. This is basically stuff that I've heard word of mouth. But the Kerry Williams experience was one of those ones where I would imagine that John Schneider would do his due diligence when it comes to things like that. So my hope is that the knee is causing issues with Dunbar doing what is necessary defensively. But I don't know. I really don't know what the answer is to his issues. I just do know that I don't think you can play him right now. I don't think you can play him for a while. And I don't know who you put in after him. Nico Thorpe? Lyndon Stevens? Do you move one of the little guys, DJ Reed or Ugo Amadi, over to that spot?
Pete mentioned DJ Reed as an outside candidate, which was interesting the other day.
5'9". It's really interesting. Totally different.
I'm not saying he's going to be great or even good, but I'd like to see him get some play time there.
Same. You may as well at this point,
And we talked about it. It's at the point where they need to throw at the walls. That's how bad this is. I'm going to say a statement that, I've been saying a lot and is going to make people uncomfortable.
Here it comes.
If they don't make adjustments to this defense, man, and it stays in its current state, it's going to bite them in the ass in the playoffs, and it's going to end their playoff dreams or their Super Bowl dreams. I guarantee you, when you get to the playoffs, you are playing better teams. You are playing better defenses. Relying on Russell Wilson in this offense to put up 35, 40 plus points a game for 4 straight games, depending on your seed in the playoffs, to win you a Super Bowl. Ooh, buddy, You're putting yourself at some really long odds. Not saying Russell can't do it. I think he might if he catches hot. I don't know if maybe Patrick Mahomes is the only other quarterback that could do that, but there's got to be – they got to do something.
Yeah.
I don't care what the it is. Throw it at the wall. Throw it at the wall. So –
I don't want Aaron Rodgers to end the Seahawks season again. Oh. That would be the worst.
That's a gut punch. Jesus.
One last thing that you brought up, and this is something that I've been looking into because I disagree on this one, but it's not a strong disagreement. The guy's barely played. Jamal Adams has been very good in Seattle, and I saw this in a recent tweet. Adams, I'm trying to think of how he's going to be the difference that puts you over the top defensively, and maybe this is just a consequence of what you traded for him. You trade 2 first-round picks. You trade the 3rd-round pick. You trade Bradley McDougald, the Scotsman, who's not actually Scottish. And you're getting a guy who I feel like 5 years ago, awesome. I feel like now he's not Budda Baker. He's not Tyrann Mathieu. He's one of those versatile safeties, but I don't think he's quite those two. And those two, I feel like, are maybe as far as being that guy that can cover and blitz and do everything, they're more that than Adams is.
So I want to be clear about your take before I spat off.
Fire away.
Are you saying Budda Baker is better than Jamal Adams?
I've liked what I've seen from Budda Baker this year more than what I've seen from Jamal Adams.
Okay.
How about that walking the fence?
Before this year,
honestly, I barely knew anything about Budda Baker outside of the UW people loved him, and I liked to troll them in the passive-aggressive ways that I can as someone who has adopted the Cougs, basically, just to be the counter to my co-host.
That's funny. Paul, this is the thing. Jamal Adams, the past several years with the Jets, has been absolutely elite in coverage. That's one of the biggest myths about Jamal Adams, is he's elite in coverage. At least he was before he got to Seattle. So
that's Stephon Diggs play, man. Woof.
I know. I mean, there's no defending it. I'm not going to defend it. But
and maybe it's the groin. Look, it could be as simple as that. It could be as simple as he's still trying to figure out the defense.
But here's the thing, Paul, also, Stephon Diggs is really good.
Yes, he is.
He's I don't know.
He's top 5, top 10.
Yeah, he's a good player. He's a really good receiver. This is my whole sort of thesis in my mind, and tell me if this doesn't make sense. Jamal Adams, his primary role is to be an elite coverage safety. Yes, he can unpredictably, rush the passer in unique moments. I think that's great. But my whole argument is that they're rushing the passer too predictably, too often with him, thus jeopardizing the rest of the secondary, relying on those corners to stay tight in coverage, which they absolutely cannot do, instead of allowing Jamal to give them safety help.
So do they view him wrong, maybe? Do you think that they look at him and they don't see him the way that maybe you do or others do? Because my perception of him has been he's Palomalu-esque in that he's very instinctual.
No, he totally is. It's just been too aggressive, man. It's like every time. Remember the 3rd and 16 blitz, like that they gave up the big defensive play this past Sunday.
Yeah, that was bad.
Where he rushed it was so predictable. Let me be clear. It's not Jamal Adams. It's what they're asking him to do and when they're asking him to do it. That's my problem. Is like the corners are not good enough to remain solo in coverage on the edges. They're not. Like they're not. Like when are we? And my whole thing is like, if the pass rush is gonna suck, let it suck. Stop asking Jamal to do their full-time jobs. Let LJ Collier be an edge rusher. Let all those other players be edge rushers. Like if they stick Jamal in coverage more often, than they ask him to rush the passer right now, take like 5 to 10% of the rushes. It doesn't need to be significant. I think this defense improves. Like I really do. I think especially as you get closer to the playoffs, like as you play better quarterbacks, they are going to be able to recognize those blitzes a lot more predictably, and they're going to have ways around it. And they're going to beat our corners. It's going to get worse. And
what's a shame is too, we look at the Rams on Sunday. What beat the Rams a couple of weeks ago, at least what I saw on the mean internet streets, is a lot of cover zero, a lot of what the Seahawks were doing on Sunday and doing unsuccessfully. And it seems like you want to blitz Jared Goff and make him pee his pants and turn the ball over 4 times and a half. Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm so concerned about this matchup, because like the Rams match up so well against us. Like we were just talking about this on Real. It's so funny. We were just talking about this on Real Hawk Talk the other night. Like I would say this game on Sunday is their toughest remaining game on the schedule. I think so too. It's the road game, and I mean, you play the Rams second to last week of the season, but it's at home. And after this stretch this week, I think this is the toughest week of the season. That was our take this morning. You go from Thursday to next Thursday. You got 2 games. If you are able to win those 2 games, I think you win the NFC West, because then you have this cupcake buffet of NFC East teams after that, and the Jets. So now. You gotta win this one. My thing with the Rams is, and I know that this is mainly my outsider perspective. I know that there's a paranoia about the Rams, and it's well versed because for whatever reason, mediocre Rams teams have always given the Seahawks issues. But I just look at this Rams team and I'm like, but they're so mediocre. I mean, their resume, they've won 5 games, but they've beaten the the NFC East and Chicago with Nick Foles. They've lost games against teams that I think are good. They lost to the Buffalo Bills. They lost to the Dolphins we just saw, and they lost to like Jimmy Hobalopolo and a banged up 49ers team. So I look at them. I know I should be scared of Aaron Donald, who once pulled a guy face mask off and beat him with it. But I look at the rest of the Rams and I don't know what it is. I just am not impressed.
Let's talk about a big recent issue that makes me even more concerned. Ethan Posick might not play on Sunday. That
concussion. So and you don't have BJ Finney anymore. Oh no.
Are you telling me Kyle Fuller's going to go up against Aaron Donald and protect Russell?
Would you rather have Kyle Fuller or Joey Hunt against Aaron Donald?
Oh, God, I hate you. Oh, my God.
At least Kyle Fuller's big.
I have literally seen Joey Hunt get run over like a little child.
Oh, it's like a car crash, man.
Yeah, I'm thinking about, I think it was a 49ers game last year. I think it was in Santa Clara, where I don't remember who the defender was, but he just got like pushed over like a child. Like it was embarrassing. Like Russell was like immediately sacked. It was like a 0.2 second play.
Might have been Fletcher Cox, but there are so many that they all sort of blend together. He and Travis Homer, when they get hit, it's like crash test dummies. They get smoked when they get hit.
I'll take Kyle Fuller because I don't know what to expect.
All right, see, progress.
No.
Let's go.
Progress. I'll take it.
All right, so I'm trying to get to know Seahawks Twitter, and how you mentioned how you found yourself on it. How would you sum it up if you were to sum it up in one word? What is Seahawks Twitter?
That's a really good question, and I did listen to the show last week, so I know Jackson's answer. I'm probably gonna go with insightful, and I'll tell you why. I mean, you know why. There's some really smart people.
There are too many smart people. I feel like an idiot.
Oh, no.
Cut it out, guys.
Paul, we are the idiots on Seahawks Twitter, and I'm happy to play that role. I mean, there's Seahawks Twitter people that have been like openly plucked by NFL teams that are working for NFL teams in like part-time and full-time capacities. Some that are more well-known, some that are not, not as well-known, because they didn't have a big follower count or something like that. But like there's a lot of people who say like, oh, Seahawks Twitter is just too confident in themselves. Yes, that's also true. And I'm happy to be a part of that problem. So
I have definitely said that to myself before.
So I just want to say like, yes, we are absolutely full of ourselves. I think that's what makes us special, maybe.
I think it's okay for that. When you cover when you follow a team that's this good for this long. I grew up a Patriots fan. I know that's for a lot of people.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I grew up in Massachusetts, and I have this very sense of elitist football takes because of it. When I went to Houston for the first time, everyone hated me because I was like, yeah, your team's not good. 2011, 2012, when the Texans actually were good, I'm like, no, you guys stink. Sorry. Sure. And then the Letterman jacket game happened, and I was like, what did I tell you? Naturally, this made me zero friends when I was there. So that did not exactly work out so well for me. But I totally empathize with the plight of the person who follows a team that's really good and that has seen the team playing at a level that's historic. Because then when it's not playing at a historic level, you maybe are a little bit more aggressive when it comes to a successful team and following them.
I'll give you a great example recently. Sean Clement, I think is how you pronounce his last name, was an active writer for Field Goals maybe a year to 2 years ago. Ravens plucked him. He does football analytics for them. He has some really special title. It's like, quantitative something really smart that I can't do. And he's excelling with the Ravens. And there's quite a few more examples of other people like him. So, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. Like if people are literally getting poached by NFL teams, and I'll tell you this, I guarantee you Zach has been asked to, work in maybe part-time
Zach Whitman
or full-time roles for NFL teams. In the past, I know he's a civil engineer by professional trade, and I know he's really happy in his role, but there's just some really smart people. I know Ben Baldwin gets a ton of hate, but I do think he's smart.
I enjoy Ben Baldwin, and that formula, that the tier system that he has created. Yeah, I looked at it the other day and I was like, damn, that's exactly how I would view it with my caveman brain. The way that the NFL is right now, except for maybe like two teams.
Two things on Ben Baldwin. He and I went to the same high school, believe it or not. Like 10 years apart. Yeah, okay. He's an old fart, but
hey.
Second of all, I'm going to take credit for a second for creating the monster that is Ben Baldwin. Oh. Because if people don't remember this, okay, I'm just going to bring it up. I actually don't think I've spoken of this since it happened. It was like 2016, 2017, I think. I had like 2,000 or 3,000 followers, so it wasn't, not too many followers or anything like that. But Ben, had like 25 followers or something like that. And I was like, dude, this guy's always tagging me and he's kind of like posting cool graphs and stuff and making me feel smart. So I like told people to go follow him. He got up to like 1,000 in a couple of days and he just blew up from there. Like all of a sudden it took him like 2 months and he like eclipsed me in followers. And I was like, this like in a very like selfish way. Like I just promoted my demise. Not actually, but I feel like I do have a hand had a hand in creating that monster.
Okay, so Evan in Seattle created Ben Baldwin. We're gonna have to bring this up when we ever
Just the start.
when
just
we have
the start.
when we have Ben on this eventually, and we're just gonna use probably his Terminator eye as the picture because I
mean,
know
he's obviously way bigger than me now by a million times. You know, other fan bases absolutely hate him. You know, I guess you could call he's a national writer. You know, for The Athletic. It's awesome. I mean, I think he puts out great content. Super smart dude. Can obviously piss off people, especially Packers fans. But I mean, I'm not going to complain about that. So,
what's your earliest memory of being a Seahawks fan?
Oh yeah. So I'm gonna make you feel old again. Okay. So the first season I ever watched was 2006, 2007.
Okay.
So my first jersey was a Sean Alexander jersey. Loved Sean Alexander.
Did you like those unis, by the way? I look back in time, and that stretch of uniforms, oh, God, they were gross. Like, I refused to play with them in Madden, even though they were good, because I hated that, what was it, like, it was like a navy green, essentially?
It was horrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrible.
Ugh.
Putrid. But I vividly remember watching the Seahawks-Steelers Super Bowl and like being a child and just like crying, like just crying.
If it makes you feel any better, I was pissed too.
Yeah, not even knowing why I'm crying, but just crying. So my history as a Seahawks fan is actually a little weird. I know there's people my age who have been Seahawks fans, obviously much longer than I have. But I started following the Seahawks really when the Sonics left. I was a Sonics fan by birth, I guess you could say. Way more into basketball growing up. Don't watch basketball anymore for obvious heartbreaking reasons. Yeah. My childhood was ruined. F*** you, David Stern. Sorry. Yeah, I'm just throwing around tons of curse words, probably alienating all your audience right now.
That's fine. I'm going to have to censor it. So, I mean, thanks for making my editing work a little more difficult. But, keep going. We're fine with that.
When I was a kid and my dad was like, hey, buddy, the Sonics might be leaving. Like that, first of all, it broke me. It ruined me, but it sort of left like a sports hole in my heart.
It does something. I mean, I was in Houston and it is not as passionate of an NFL city despite being a football town because the Oilers were taken and the Texans have never been embraced in the same way. There is a generation of people that are about my age who don't really like the NFL. They're more into college football than they are into the NFL teams there. So there's a lot of Longhorn fans. There's a lot of Aggie fans, but I totally understand what you're saying.
So, I mean, people can call me a bandwagon fan since 2007. That's fine. I don't care. Like I was a Sonics fan by,
if you live here, it's fine, man.
Yeah. Like, I mean, and this is the thing. I really liked basketball more growing up as a kid. Dude, the Sonics were such shit, but I still loved them. like I loved them, man. And I was never a baseball fan, so I never really cared about the Mariners. Still don't care about the Mariners, even though I have a couple Mariners jerseys.
Might be time to jump on that bandwagon soon. I'm just saying.
Okay, I've been hearing about that for the past 20. I've been hearing about that for the past 20 years. Mariners fans hate me. Every year it's gonna be, this is the year. This is the year we're gonna make the playoffs. No, it's not. No, it's not.
I'll just say, as someone who's not the biggest baseball fan, that it's watchable. It is watchable, so that's why I'm playing the hype flute. I don't know why there's a hype flute.
I mean, I make fun of their fans. And I don't really consider myself a Mariners fan because I'm not, but, tons of respect to them.
If they do become good and you jump on the bandwagon, you have to rub it in everyone's face. No, do it. Just because that will make them so angry, and I would enjoy that. I'll be there just to look at your replies and eat some popcorn.
Oh, there's this so speaking of, I know you're trying to learn all about Seahawks Twitter, and I commend you for this insane cause of yours. There's a little strife between Seahawks Twitter and Mariners Twitter.
Really?
You notice that? There is. There's some what's the right word? Tension?
Okay.
There's a little bit of tension, and I think it's because the Seahawks have been so good for the past decade. And Seahawks fans, I mean, I complain all the time. Tons of Seahawks fans complain all the time. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think everybody can fan how they want to fan, but I do think it rubs Mariners fans the wrong way a lot of the time. I love Mariners fans. I think they're precious little cuties, but there's a little bit of tension there. It's worth diving into. Maybe you can pull out an investigative report.
Okay, I wouldn't mind that. And apologies, because the cat is.
Did you have a dog too? Did I see a dog in the background?
No, it's just the cat. She's mad that I'm not paying attention to her. Nope, you got to go away, hun. Okay.
What's her name?
Arya. I was a big Game of Thrones fan. Unfortunately, the end
Can
of
we
that.
talk about how awkward that sex scene was?
Which one?
Okay, the Arya one in season 8 where.
Oh yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, I felt vividly uncomfortable. Anyways, whenever I think of her, I think of that scene. It was,
Oh, well, my cat to Arya sex scenes. Who would have thought? Who is your favorite underrated follow of Seahawks Twitter? You mentioned a couple of the big names. We talked about Danny Kelly, Ben Baldwin, obviously, Mina Kimes, the Queen. You mentioned Zach Whitman as well. Who else?
Yeah, I'm going to give a great shout out, and I am going to search up his name just to make sure I spell it correctly. So his name is Vontae. Okay.
Oh, Vontae. I know him.
And Vounttee. I think he's a Mexican Seahawks fan, so I think he's in Mexico. Like he lives in Mexico. He's like a low-key cable Thanos. Like
I've not seen montages. Interesting.
he makes really good like anime Seahawks stuff. I'm not into anime, but like he does anime themed Seahawks stuff and occasionally, and he does like okay. So if you go to his profile right now, he actually has an anime season intro pinned at his profile. So,
Really?
yeah, actually, I would argue he's the most underrated follow in Seahawks Twitter.
Okay, that is a strong take.
Literally number one. He's just a good guy. He used to be a little bit more crude, and I said, hey, if you want to gain more followers, should tone it down a little bit.
Tone it down a little, yeah.
I don't know if he took my advice or not, because I'm an idiot, but yeah, he's been blowing up a little bit over the years. He's got like almost 4,000 followers. He has funny content, man. I like the memes. I really do. I live for them.
This is a chance for you to roast perhaps a friend of yours on Seahawks Twitter. Who's the worst?
Sure. Who is the worst?
This is a loose definition.
Who is the worst? Okay, so this is the one question I wish I had ahead of time so I could properly shit on the person. Who is the worst? Oh my God, there's so many. I'm gonna.
R.I.P.
Oh my
Trebek.
God, there's so many options. I'm literally like.
First one that comes to mind, because we're going to have you back on, and there's going to be so many other people that are going to have similar answers. In fact, I should have asked Jackson this, and I didn't.
Who is the worst? I'm legitimately so dumbfounded. I'm gonna go with William Cornell.
William Cornell.
Rain City series.
Okay.
Will, I'm sorry if you hear my dogs in the background. I too have pets. Will is one of my best friends in real life.
Ooh.
Best friends in real life. So I want to be clear about that. Will and I are on great terms. But Will just has horrific Seahawks takes. Absolutely horrific
Example.
Seahawks takes. Hates passing the football, hates seeing touchdowns. You heard it here first. William Cornell hates good football. He hates scoring points. So
Okay.
let me be clear, I'm exaggerating a lot, but
He longs for the LOB days, is what you're saying.
I mean, yeah. He's a big. Let me be more hyperbole. What's the word?
No, keep the hyperbole going. Keep that energy.
He and I just see like polar. He and I see football in completely polar opposite perspectives. So that's the only thing. One of my dudes, though. Love him.
Okay, that's a good one. I'm going to give you 2 Seahawk hypotheticals before you hit the road. Here's number 1. And I know this one is going to hurt you a little bit.
You're just hurting me, man.
Your theoretical small human child of the future has grown into a large football man. He's about to go to college, but he only has 2 scholarship offers. One is from a school coached by Ken Norton Jr. The other is from a school coached by Tom Cable. These are the only scholarship offers, and he has to go to one of these 2 places. Where are you telling your spawn to play the sports?
You know how we tell some kids that college isn't the path for them? And they should go to like a trade school or
Go to TikTok.
Yeah, go to TikTok. Become a social media influencer. I think that's the path for my child. To answer your question seriously, the Ken Norton school. I'll get serious for 1 second. Like, Tom Cable's a garbage person. Like, I don't know if you've seen his, like, he has a pretty serious domestic violence past.
Did not know that.
And I know you probably didn't intend to ask that question and tell me to get serious, but
hey, I appreciate you getting serious. We learn new things every day. Yikes.
Yeah. If I'm going to answer the question truthfully,
okay.
It's Ken Norton. Yeah, I think Ken Norton's a great guy. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think Ken Norton is a great linebackers coach.
Wagner and Wright like him, and I know that's constantly brought up as like a reason you can't get rid of him. And I think that's such a strange reason to be brought up. But
I mean, I like Ken Norton the person, and as the linebackers coach. I just don't think he's a good defensive coordinator. So that's the answer to your question.
Okay. Choose your adventure. It's 2030. You can do one of these two options. The Seahawks keep Russell Wilson, who is now entering his 40s, but they move on from Pete Carroll in favor of Adam Gase, who is back in the league somehow. Or the Seahawks keep Pete Carroll, but move on from Russell Wilson in favor of journeyman quarterback Mitchell Trubisky, who is still in the league.
This is a super easy question. Taking Adam Gase and Russell Wilson, because as we all know, Russell Wilson is completely responsible for Pete Carroll's success over the past decade, and he could succeed with pretty much any head coach. So I'm taking the Adam Gase Russell Wilson duo.
Do you think Gase could ruin him? Like, is it possible for Adam Gase? That would be his greatest achievement, right?
Let me be very clear. He absolutely could ruin Russell Wilson. What I just said was complete hyperbole, obviously. But I do think the chances of it's a quarterback-driven league. We all know it. And there's good quarterbacks out there that have I'm going to take back that statement before it comes out of my mouth, actually. Let me put it this way. I think the Russell Wilson Adam Gase duo would have more success than Trubisky's bad.
Yes, he's awful.
Like, really? Awful. They traded up over Deshaun Watson and Patrick. Oh my.
And that Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy are still in charge. It's bizarre. And the story about how Ryan Pace came to like Trubisky that had to do with his car.
Dude, so you know what? I'll leave you with a hot take.
Fire.
NFL staff are not as smart as we think they are.
I agree. In
general. So I want to.
I used to cover the Texans, who are great at trades. Dude,
this is not in reference to the Seahawks, actually, because I think the Seahawks are pretty smart, even though I'm a fan of them. And this is not in reference. And I want to be clear. I'm not saying like I would do a better job, because I don't think I would do a better job at all or anything close to it. But I just don't think there's a lot of nepotism in the NFL, man. There's a lot of relationships and people getting positions that they probably aren't the most qualified for. Due to a lot of factors. I think there's racial stereotyping. I think there's nepotism involved. I think there's a lot of things going on. It's not a perfect league. And I just don't think in general, I'm not actually, and I want to separate this. I think front office staff are not in general as smart as we think they are.
I think that's fair. And it's such an inexact science too. I mean,
yeah.
Ryan Grigson won General Manager of the Year once. And I remember afterwards watching the Colts turn into, honestly, a disappointment considering they had Andrew Luck afterwards. And it's like, congrats, you drafted Andrew Luck and you drafted T.Y. Hilton. And that got you the award. And after that, not so good. And I know there are other stories, and Pat McAfee will tell them about the way that he is with people. It's a very inexact science. And it's a job that I would not want, because I know it takes all those hours just to get to the position where you actually are in charge. And then you get in charge, you might be in a situation that's doomed, or you might be in just such an advantageous situation that, I mean, how could you screw it up?
Yeah. It's dude, I mentioned I interned at Over the Cap for 6 months or so doing projects with them. Early on in my professional career, I guess you could say I wanted to work in the NFL and do cap stuff for teams and, negotiate contracts and do salary cap stuff, because there are positions like that. It's just very few and far between. Like the Seahawks have Matt Thomas, who is their cap guy, and then they have somebody who pretty much just manages their financial budgets. These positions are very few and far between. We're talking like 32 total positions in the world. So they don't come up often. It's very relationship driven. And frankly, I don't envy anybody who works in the NFL. I really don't. It's
hard life.
Very unstable position. And one other thing people don't realize, unless you are a general manager or a head coach, you are not making good money.
No.
You're making really bad money.
And working long hours. And again, you're thinking about the path that it takes just to get that opportunity, just to get in the door, and all the stupid stuff that you have to do along the way that has nothing to do with your actual job responsibilities. You're essentially fetching coffee for people, driving people around. Oh, it's a brutal life. And it's one that I honestly at one point did want to pursue, but then I realized that I'm a lazy person. And I was no.
I mean, just so people are aware, like, NFL scouts, of course, adjust it for cost of living based on the city, but in general are not making much more than like $40K as an entry level scout.
Wow.
Like, that's what we're talking. Like, and I can say that because I know some of them.
Yeah.
Like, that's what we're talking about. So of course it depends on, if you live in the Midwest, you could survive easily on that, but it's not. I think everybody thinks that NFL personnel are making probably like 100K plus base. Absolutely not the case.
Wow. Well, that's a bummer to end on.
Yeah, it's a negative note. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Evan, this was a blast. I had a great time. We got to do this again. And everyone's got to check out all of your content at Evan in SEA on Twitter. Hawkblogger.com. You're right. You host a podcast every Wednesday at 8 o'clock. You guys do a post-game show.
You saying I write makes it sound like I write consistently. So
let's
be clear here.
That's what I am too. I write.
Yeah, I write 2 times a year. So if that counts as writing, sure. But thank you for the shout out.
Hey, no problem at all. This was a blast. And hopefully the Seahawks take care of the Rams on Sunday and Aaron Donald doesn't beat Russell Wilson into a bloody pulp. That would be nice.
Can I leave you with one more take?
Fire away.
I said one more take like 10 minutes ago, so I'm going to give you one more take. Sunday is a must-win game.
Must win.
Sunday is a must-win game, and I'll tell you why. If your hopes are Super Bowl if your hopes are the Super Bowl, if your expectations are that this team is going to go to the Super Bowl, you have to win Sunday. And let me tell you my quick logic. The Seahawks are likely only getting to the Super Bowl via the 1 seed. And you're only getting the 1 seed in the NFC, in my opinion, with 13 wins. So the Seahawks can really only drop one more game the rest of the way. That's their most likely route to a Super Bowl appearance and a victory. I think starting the division, what would it be, 1 and 2 if they lose against the Rams?
Not good, right?
You can't do that.
Yeah.
You'd have to run the table after that, which I'm not saying they can't do. I just think it's highly unlikely. So must-win game on Sunday.
Must win. Thanks so much, Evan.
Thanks, sir.